Hey guys, I'm Chef D-Max. Welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're going to do a beautiful red cabbage. Most of you you see red cabbage, you have maybe red cabbage in some of your salads in the summertime, but it makes the best braised red cabbage. This dish is amazing. You're going to want to stay around for it. It's something I learned along the years in really nice restaurants. You'll see it a lot in Eastern Europe as well, and it's super simple. So click that subscribe button if you're not doing that already. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and ring that bell and I'll send you new stuff I have coming up. So we'll see you back in a second. Okay guys, red cabbage. So first I'm going to get this started. You have to marinate the cabbage the day before, okay? I know it seems like a big drama for you guys. But the beauty of this cabbage is when you make this cabbage, once it's cooked down, you can put this in a mason jar in your refrigerator for 3 months. And it's still as good as the first day you made it. So that's the beautiful thing. But we're going to have to work a little bit. So here, I've got my red cabbage. I'm just going to cut off the end like this and get rid of any really kind of the heavy, you see these heavy kind of really dark leaves like this. It won't be too many layers. I would say, look, that's it, 2 layers like that. That's fine, right? And then you're going to cut it in half from top to bottom like this, you see? Right? And we're going to cut that root out. That's our goal. So I'm going to do is cut down the center again. So these are quarters, right? We're cutting it down the center again, okay? Then you see that roots right there. I just go at an angle like that, and that quarter comes out. Now, the goal here is to cut these thin kind of strips, not too thick, right? So don't just try to get this done really fast and just do it really quickly and thick as can be. You want them to be thinner. We want them to cook down and almost, they're going to melt down really nice over the process anyway. But if you cut them like this kind of thickness, it's not ultra thin, but it's thin, right? And I'm going to put them in a bowl over here, okay? And then I'm going to do this right here, boom, okay? And I'm going to cut this ultra thin again. Super simple, okay? So just follow this and you'll be good. Okay, I'm down to my last one, my last quarter. Oh, I got to cut that out, the root out. And that root's just kind of thick, and it won't really cook down very soft, so that's why we cut it out. It's nothing, it's going to kill you or anything like that if you eat it. It's going to be fine, but it just, like I said, it's just harder to cook that down. So once you get it to that point where you've got like this chunk left there, then you turn it flat again, and then you cut it really thin, like with your knife like this, being careful not to get your knuckles or your fingertips, right? So that's it. Once we do that, we're done. This is our cabbage cut. We're going to marinate, okay? Now, to marinate this now, we don't put a lot of stuff in. We don't actually put any salt in it right now. We're just going to put juice. So I put fresh orange juice here. So this is a half gallon, but I'm going to put half of a half gallon, okay? So 1 quart, okay? And I'm going to put 1 bottle. Now, I use a cheap red wine, the kind you find for like $5 a bottle. A cab is fine. And the reason I do that is because we're going to cook this down, and we want the flavor. You're going to ruin any flavor, like deep flavor, exotic flavors that you're going to get from an expensive red wine. So this is where you can go and buy cheap red wine. I feel a little weird though, because whenever I'm in the grocery store, I always have this like $5 bottle of wine there. I think people are judging me when I'm checking out. But anyway, I won't show you what this one is because I don't want to negatively brand anybody. But you know what I'm talking about. So just marinate it like this. We're going to cover this with plastic and put it in the fridge. And we're going to let that sit in the fridge overnight. And then we're going to cook it later. So I'm going to cook it tomorrow for you. So we'll see you back in the kitchen tomorrow, and we'll get this red cabbage going. Hey you guys, all right, we're back in the kitchen today. We've got our cabbage. You can see this. Look, it's beautiful cabbage. It's been sitting here and marinating overnight. The cabbage itself soaks up all this wine and this orange juice. It's beautiful. So to cook this cabbage, we're going to take some sugar. You can take regular white sugar. If you want to use brown sugar, you can do that. And we're going to put, for this 1 head of cabbage, this is like probably, that is a quarter cup of sugar. And I'm going to start melting that. So I'm going to put my pan on, and I want to melt this down. And this is what we call, the French call gastrique, when you have this beautiful sugar, we melt it down, we usually add an acidity to it. We're going to add the wine, but if you were making a gastrique for a sauce, you would use sugar and a vinegar, but we're going to use the wine. So what I'm going to show you, what we're going to add to it in a little bit, that's why I want to get it ready now. I got 2 onions, and this size onion. This is a half of the size, right? So I took the other 1.5 onions and already diced it really nice. I'm going to show you how to dice that really quick here. So you take the onion, you basically cut the ends off and you peel it, and then you cut it in half, and that's what we have. And the reason we cut it in half, we want it to sit down like this. Now, the bottom of the onion right here where the root was, that's the toughest part of the onion. So you want to set that away from you. So now you can see I just cut straight down in these little tiny slices, right? And then I'm going to cut back and I'm going to go horizontal. Be very careful. You're coming at your fingers. You don't want to go hard and slip through, catch the knife and cut yourself, right? So we're going to do this about 4 times, okay? What that does is it gives us the ability to dice this thing nicely. At this point, we just slice down and we dice. You can see how simple that is, right? Super simple, right? You guys feel like you can do that at home? It's not that bad. So with this, we dice that, and then I kind of cut around the onion like this. Now, this one didn't have a heavy root, so I can actually put that part in there too. If you notice like the onion's got like a really stocky root, just throw that piece away, okay? Now, what else do we add to this? We're gonna take some duck fat. And now you don't have duck fat at home, so you're gonna probably just use butter. But if you have duck fat at home, you're gonna wanna take out a nice tablespoon of duck fat, because it's going to give it this great flavor. Now, why do I have duck fat in my freezer? Because when I get whole ducks, I clean the skin off and the fat off, and I put the fat in a pot with some water, and I cook it. And when the water disappears and the fat's melted, it creates an oil. Looks like olive oil, right? And it's clear, it's beautiful. I stick it in a container like this, and it lasts in the freezer forever, okay? It'll last in the refrigerator probably forever. So as long as you don't have the liquids from the bottom of it. So like what I usually do is after I melt it in a pot, I pour it in a glass jar like this, and I'll let it get hard, and I scoop all the fat like this and put it in another container, and the bottom part of that has a little bit of liquid in there from maybe from the juice from the duck or whatever that you had from the duck's skin, you can just discard that. Now, with this, you can make this with olive oil, and it's going to be fine. No worries about that. So with this, we want to let this melt, and it's not melting yet. It's not even starting to melt, which is kind of weird, but we're going to let it melt, and then once that melts, we're going to add in our duck fat, then our onions. We're going to cook our onions in that, so stay with me. Okay, it's been about a couple minutes now. You're going to start to see, you see how like, you see this kind of little bit of sugar melting, right? It's getting golden brown, right? And it's gonna fully melt here in a second. This is how you make caramel. If you ever want to make caramel, you just melt it down like this, and then you add heavy cream and butter, and that makes caramel sauce. And we've done that too here. You can check out my video on caramel sauce. It's really nice. It's always great to do because you put it in the fridge and it lets it sit there, and it lasts for a long time. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put like a tablespoon or more of this duck fat. And why? Because this duck fat's going to add such nice flavor to this dish, right? Okay, and I want to take that duck fat and move it around in this caramel like this. You can see this, how beautiful that is, right? Now, this is going to stick to stuff like this. Be very careful. When you're working with sugar like this, the kids around the house, go have them play somewhere else. Don't let them play near this, because a sugar burn, like if it splatters on you or you spill it on yourself, very dangerous. It sticks to your skin and creates havoc. So you don't want to do that. So at this point, Now the caramel's nice and brown, right? It got this great duck flavor in there too from that duck fat. I'm gonna stick my onions in here. Okay, like this. Now the onions have a lot of water in them when they hit this, so they're gonna cook and they're gonna steam off and they're gonna slow down that caramelizing of your sugar. So you don't have to worry about your sugar burning at this point because it's already gonna be cooled down by these onions. Now, God, it smells amazing. You know, I'm telling you, duck, onion, and sugar smells amazing. Smells amazing. Now, I'm going to put salt in here. I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of salt now. We're going to salt it when we're done, of course, but 2 tablespoons is perfect. And I'm going to put peppercorns. Now, I put a lot of peppercorns. And I'm trying to blow it at the same time. Why do I do that? Because the moisture of the steam on my pepper grinder gets the peppercorn piece here wet, and then it like clumps up. So we don't want to do that. So I'm trying to keep it away from the steam and get a lot of ground peppercorn. You can also put peppercorns in a grinder, grind it up, and then just dump it in here. That's the easier way. I like to do it the hard way. But I put a nice, at least a good teaspoon of black pepper in there. It gives nice flavor to this dish. Okay. Now, those onions are starting to cook in there really nicely. We don't have to worry about them caramelizing or cooking too long because we're going to cook them a long time with this cabbage. So with this, I have a beautiful, this is a nice blueberry and blackcurrant jam, but you could use raspberry jam, blackberry jam, blueberry jam, whatever you want. Okay, but having a nice fruit jam on there gives you a sweetness and it gives you a fruitiness to this cabbage. And when we cook this down with the savoriness of the duck fat, the salt in there, the pepper in there, we're going to add butter like way later when we're done. It brings this thing together. Trust me. You're going to be like, wow, this is one of the most amazing things I've ever tried. So when we do that, I'm going to stir this in. We're going to melt this a little bit like this. And then we're going to add our cabbage. Be very careful, like I said. You do not want to you don't want to push any kind of sugar to your body. Because if you do that, you can get seriously burnt. Okay, now at this point, we're going to take all of our wine, cabbage, orange juice that's in here, it's all going in here. Okay, we're going to go very gentle with it, okay, like this. Okay, beautiful. Okay, and then we're going to bring this to a boil. Yum. Red wine cabbage, even good raw. How do you beat that, right? So I basically want to put the cabbage in here at this level. The reason I'm leaving this spoon in there is because we had sugar in there. So you can see right here, right? The sugar gets hard and gets stuck to that, right? If I keep it in the hot liquid, it's going to melt off. Now, I'm going to show you how to create a cover for this because you don't want to use a lid. What a lid does is keeps all the steam in, liquid in, right? Because it just kind of steams up, gets to the top of the lid, and it falls back down again, right? It doesn't escape, not as much at least. We want this to escape. We want all this liquid to reduce till it's gone. At the time where it's gone and the cabbage is cooked, that's when it's done, okay? So what I want to do is create a lid that breathes, which is just a lid that it's going to cover it and allow us to push the cabbage down. So what I do is I take a piece of wax paper and I go in half with that. See that? Now from the center of that, put your finger in the center, do it in half again. Keep your fingers in the center, do it in half again, right? Now we have a little pie shape, right? Let's do it in half again. Now we have a smaller pie shape, right? But this is the center. You put the center in the center of this, like this, and then you cut this. You just rip it like that. And then I just rip the center as well, like a tiny hole. Then I open it up. What do we get? We get a circle with a little hole in it. How sweet is that, right? And it fits perfectly. How great is that, right? So at this point, what I do is I take it and I push it down under the wine so this parchment kind of like sits under the wine. I'm gonna leave that spoon in there now because I want, when it gets hot, I want it to melt that sugar off. Now we'll remove the spoon, right? But now what this is gonna do is keeps the cabbage down underneath the wine, lets the wine cook, and we're gonna let this simmer. This needs to simmer for at least an hour, possibly an hour and 20 minutes. I'll give you the time on it later. What I'm doing right now, bring it to a boil. Once it boils, I turn it down to a simmer, okay? Let it like have a nice steady simmer, let it bubble away, and then we're gonna come back and look at it. So stay with me, and I'll see you back in a second. Hey you guys, so what I've done here is I've taken my cabbage off at this point. It's been an hour and a half now. You can see like I had my pot here, and the cabbage cooked down. Look, you can see the juiciness of this cabbage. Can you see that? So beautiful, right? How like soft, velvety this is, okay? Now what I did was I took just one spoonful like this of the cabbage and I put it in my pot here and I just cooked it for a second longer to reduce it a little bit more and with a little bit of butter. And what I've done is put that on my plate here so you guys can see the texture of it. Look at this texture, right? Once you reduce this a little bit more, this isn't watery, this is very saucy, right? But once you reduce that liquid out and you add a little bit of butter, you get a real buttery, creamy red wine sauce. And that's what you're looking for. And the cabbage itself is super delicate, super nice. It's not chewy. It's got an elegance to it. Really great with meats. I would take this with a grilled piece of beef tenderloin, nice butter sauce, you know, like a nice herb butter on top of that, and this cabbage and maybe some roasted or grilled broccoli. Beautiful. You have the red wine flavor, that beautiful orange, you know, it gives you that citrusy, really nice. The bay leaf and the duck fat are going to give you kind of a meatiness and an earthiness to this dish, okay? And I think that this is something for you guys. Take this cabbage as is, put it in your mason jar like this, throw this in your fridge. It'll last for months, okay? Then when you want to take some, you just take a little bit out with the juice and you warm it up, reduce some of the juice down, add in some cold butter, a couple knobs of cold butter, however much you want, and like thicken it up like this, and it's such a perfect sauce for any meat, chicken, pork. It's great. Actually, very classic pork sandwich in Europe is to have a crispy pork belly on a bun, like a hamburger, right? With mayonnaise on it, the crispy pork cooked on it, nice and warm. They have pickled cucumbers, and they put this red cabbage on there, and it's one of the combinations that's perfect, actually. So I'm gonna have another bite because I can't stay away from it. So amazing, so simple. You guys need to try it at home. If you have any questions, shoot me it and I'll answer them. But this dish and this condiment of vegetable and sauce in your fridge is something everybody needs to have because it's a home run. I'll see you back in the kitchen soon. I'm Chef Dean Max.